This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
You know how sometimes the first play of the game can be a real tone setter?
Aussie.
Yeah, I basically just went with Ashton Jen Teabag.
NFL.
He's not a walking 7 for 70 as I learnt last week when he went 1 for 5.
Fantasy.
I'd probably lean towards taking Henry maybe ahead of McCaffrey just because of what I've seen.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Loading.
This premier NFL fantasy football show is back. For the Aussie Gridiron Network, this is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. They call me Matty C. Joining me for the Sunday show it's either DJ Moore or Taylor Goodall. Mate, welcome back.
Matty, back for another dose of wide receiver. And Jamar Chase is creating space in your ass. Let's go.
So I get the bit right, but I just love at the end, you just throw it in your ass. I think that is right on brand.
We're going to add it in the air, mate. Just to really paint the Picasso picture.
Paint and ass are two things I don't know whether I would envisage together, because either it's one going on the other or one coming out of the other, and both are a disaster.
Get that Cleveland Browns.
Yes, well, brown paint, even better. Tay, what we did learn from a Friday show, and for those who haven't caught it, you're doing life all wrong, is we had our mate JOYCEY come and join us on the podcast, and I don't know whether it's by coercion or the guy's just a maniac. He's joined us for the Sunday show. Welcome back, JOYCEY.
Yes, I've been loving it. Of course, I couldn't miss this one.
Mate, is this against your better judgment, or do you actually feel like you've made a good decision? Because I can tell you which it is.
No, not at all. This is a great decision. I'm very, very content of what a decision I've made.
People keep saying that. Tay, do we believe them?
No, I definitely think less of JOYCEY now that he's come back. I don't know if he's got a little bit of Antonio Brown CTE. But
that hurts.
We'll see if it's a good decision or not.
And were you a wide receiver at Pittsburgh in your past? Did you share a locker with Le'Veon Bell?
He's a loose cannon. I don't want to be associated with him.
A great segue, because something I think people do want to be associated with is that here at the Aussie Gridiron Network, and especially here at the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, we're actually going to be running a listener league and a series of them as well for those who think that they can work it out better than the experts. I imagine JOYCEY is going to be one of those. Tay, we talked about this on the Friday show, and I think it bears repeating. There's a listener league for people to join right now where they can go against you, and they can find that on our Linktree site. Do you want to give us a quick rundown on what happens there and how somebody can join that and win?
Absolutely, mate. There's a great silver medal up for grabs for everyone in that league. And look, we call it, if you win here. But look, in this league, all you got to do is get second. It's absolutely phenomenal. First is earmarked for, someone that'll go unnamed and someone that's super handsome and occasionally is on an award-winning podcast. But look, in the end, we're going to run 2 listener leagues this year. We're going to have essentially myself in one and Maddie in the other. And the idea is beat the experts. Fucking get in there, draft the team that you like, beat us in a fantasy league and win some shit, win some cool AGN shit, mate. It couldn't be any more simpler, but like Matty said, look for the Linktree. I'm sure like anyone that's listening that's in our little group chat or wants to be, let us know if you want to be and you're not in it now. But for anyone that is, we'll obviously put some information in there as well. But generally, we want to put as much information about these leagues on the podcast because the idea it is for people that are listening.
100%. And you can find myself and Taylor through Instagram at Taylor41, at Matty Podcast. You can also find us all on Facebook as well. And that group chat that we talk about so much is a Facebook-based thing. So you need to be able to access Messenger to join that chat. But we are keen to see whether listeners to the show can firstly take down Taylor. That's the first league. And you can find a link to that right now. The league that Taylor is the expert for at the Linktree site. It is the first thing when you open the Linktree. And once we fill that, then the second place draw is that you get to go in a league against me. And it's going to be 1 expert versus 9 listeners. The highest placed listener, is that the best way to put it in your league, Tate? In my league, we can say the winner will take home an AGN prize pack. It's going to consist of a T-shirt, a cap as well, and a sticker from our AGN merch store, around about $100 value. And you also get to walk away knowing that you beat an expert, or in Taylor's case, that he got squashed in a final by the expert.
A close second. That'd be great. Tell the group.
A distant second, probably, in Taylor's mind. So that is all happening. Joycey, you've been playing fantasy for a little while. Have you been fortunate enough to be in a league with Taylor?
I have not. That's actually a good point. I have not.
I feel glad for you.
Maybe his greatness scares me a little bit.
You have been unsullied by the trade requests.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do an auction draft potentially and see how you go.
He has not by 1,100 trade requests. So what a tough life Joycey's had to live.
It's a man who remains unmolested by that. So,
good choice.
I think that is the correct verbiage. Oh my gosh. On the way tonight, firstly, the Friday show. We went through the top dozen or so at wide receiver. We've got reasons why we land where we do. We do think that there are some receivers there that can help you win your league. Not just get you a return on investment, but who can put you over the top. Mate, if there is nothing else to learn from today when we go through the next dozen or so, plus the fellas who we think land outside of that we want a piece of, and folks that we are running away from, these are people who will 100% help you get it over the top. So we often say that you don't win your league on draft day. You can really set yourself up for it, though. But, mate, I don't know anyone who makes more attempts to move their roster around and improve week to week than you.
Well, I brought this up, and I actually mentioned it on a mock draft, I believe, and it was about the idea of going closer to the turn in the first round instead of picking at the tippy top, your 102s, 101s and stuff like that. Is, to me, when you're picking right at the start of the draft, you can't actually find any value. You're essentially taking a guy at best hoping they return the exact value you drafted them at. Whereas you start picking near the end of the first round and, later into the draft, that's when you can actually really, really make a difference in your league, because that's when you're finding value. You're drafting guys at wide receiver 5, 6, 7, running back 5, 6, 7, whatever, and you're hoping that they take that leap into the top high echelon and finishes on 1, 2, 3 or whatever. That's when you actually can really win your league. So that's kind of what we're talking about tonight. We're not talking about the top 10 or 12 guys. We're talking about the guys that you really look at and go, these are the guys that I think are going to take the leap. They're the ones that are going to give me the best draft day value. And like you said, you don't win your league at the draft, but you can fuck it up. You can basically not win it, but you can lose it. So the idea is at the top, you're trying to basically get guys that don't essentially fall off a cliff and return value. These are the guys we're looking at that are really, really going to try and elevate you, and you're going to get a huge draft day value and a big ADB bump.
I mean, and Joycey, we were talking about this through last show and even in the green rooms in between the Friday show and before today's show about how just so simple it is for your league to come crashing down in a way that you can't predict, because you do what everyone says and you go and pick somebody who you think is going to return your value, and you're just out of control of what happens on the field. You had a bit of a horror story last year with a guy you took pretty high in a league, I hear.
Yes, we are touching on a nerve here because I still think about it every day. We're not away from the wide receivers. So I took Christian McCaffrey. I spent, because it was auction draft, I spent over $70, I think it was, out of 200.
Joycey.
And I thought really happy about it. I was like, this is great. And I also was smart enough I took Jordan Mason for $1 as a handicap. A handcuff, I should say. And then obviously, as we know, Christian McCaffrey went down early in the season and they were kind of lying about his injury, basically. Typical 49ers. Didn't play hard this season, but I was like, okay, I've got Jordan Mason. This is great. What happens towards the end, close to playoffs, he goes down. I'm like, you have to be kidding me.
Yeah.
It was one of the worst things ever. And like you said, I just was like, look, this isn't my season for this league. I'm just going to see how I go. I did still make the playoffs, but didn't go well playoffs.
Right. But there's the thing, right? You can prepare yourself as best as possible. The fantasy gods will go in there and they'll create problems, or they'll create some opportunity.
Wasn't good.
What we want to be able to do in tonight's show is provide a bunch of that opportunity, right? Because you're not going to be disappointed if your 7th round pick has some turbulence, because you didn't invest a lot in them. What we're saying here is, like, a play like that, Joycey, you spent a ton of money. It's essentially the equivalent of spending a 101 or 102 of the entire draft, first or second pick on a guy, and then just not having any of that production that you had banked on at all. Now the rest of your roster needs to drag that wagon Plus, you need people from a little lower in your draft to step up and provide a little bit of magic. And that's essentially what the Sunday show for running back was about last week. And it is 100% what we're going to be diving into here in the show this week. We're going to go through a whole bunch of the wide receivers who fall comfortably outside that top 10. We covered all the top 10 plus a couple of bonus ones on the Friday show. Go back and find that one. And then we're also going to talk about beyond the next tier of guys, the next two tiers of guys, folks who we think may just appear from nowhere, nice, big, deep sleepers who we think can overproduce. And then also some folks that we're nervous about who you may want to be a bit more wary of. Before we get into all of that, I think it's time to help out some punters out there. Every week, all season long, we're going to be diving into the mailbag to help our listeners get along. And I've got some right now from some of our great listeners.
Surely you must have questions.
Please reach out to us.
When Tay and I get asked about fantasy advice, we are not backwards about coming forwards at any stage.
Get your question read live on the show.
If you've got a mailbag question or if you're really keen to just get on the show, we'll make it work.
At Aussie NFL Fantasy on Facebook and Instagram.
The first one comes in from at Pilco Prentice. He's looking at tight ends. Hey, Tay, who's a sleeper tight end that nobody is talking about that you like a slice of this year?
No one. They're all dickheads. Nah, mate. Oh, there's definitely one that I've kept an eye on. He's actually a rookie, and I just really, really like the situation he's got with his quarterback, and they basically don't even have another tight end on the entire roster. It's Mason Taylor from the Jets. I'm basically going to go undrafted in most leagues, but he's definitely one that I'm looking at because Justin Fields has a bit of a, I don't know what it is. He seems to like to go to the middle of the field. He targets his tight ends a lot. And I just think that Mason Taylor's stepping into a role where he's just needed. And they obviously gave him high draft capital. He went in the second round. He seems to have a very good production profile coming out of college. And I just think it's just one of these situations where he's needed. I know I've talked about guys like Tyler Conklin even in the Jets and in that offense, but I just think this year, outside of Garrett Wilson, they're so void of other pass catchers that, in the tight end landscape, you're not really looking for him to finish tight end 5, 6, whatever. He doesn't actually need to have an absurd amount of yards, or he could just have a high touchdown variance and he'll get himself there. So he's a kind of guy that if I don't go a high echelon tight end, which often I don't, but this year I've got a little bit of a different stance on that. But if I don't, I'm generally waiting to the end of the draft, and he's the kind of guy I'm looking at. There's another couple of guys that I probably won't touch on because obviously JOYCEY or yourself might bring up some other guy names probably in the same area, but he's just one that I've been keeping an eye on, and I think he's definitely a guy that I'll take in the builds that I have that are very, sort of late tight end stashes.
I can't wait till next week when we've got Kev and Ian on to talk tight end because I feel like that bloke is going to be a subject all of his own. That's a nice grab. Hey, JOYCEY, you got a tight end? This is a bit of a sleeper no one's talking about that you want to cut a slice off that cake?
Yes, I would like to say I agree. I cannot stand tight ends. It's the worst position in fantasy to pick. But I don't know if you guys
want you to say that to Pat Frymouth's face, okay?
I do love the fire goat. I did have him for a while. He's good. But I don't know if you guys know, but Darren Waller's back in Miami. He was someone... I know he had that bad breakup with the WNBA player and he made that terrible song, but I do like him this year. I don't know if you remember, Miami like to use their tight ends a lot. So I think he'll be definitely someone that you can look at jumping up. And especially at the tight end position, I take it lower. I usually spend, if I'm doing an auction draft, only a couple of dollars on that. So that's someone you can pick up in that or lower in the draft. I like that way.
In the last week, I've seen even NFL.com have given Darren Waller tight end 17 is the highest I've seen him ranked on any of the big sites. Most of the big sites don't have him yet, but 17 there and in the 20s as well on Sleeper. No, ESPN. ESPN had him at 22. So that will catch up, I think, as the preseason goes by and he's on a training field and there's media around it. I think he's going to pick up a lot of steam.
Yeah, it's just funny. He hasn't played for, 2 seasons, and that shows the tight end position. He's already a top 20.
Tells you everything you need to know. Mate, I'm going to say the name that shall not be spake at tight end and say I think everybody is stepping over Kyle Pitts on a year where as soon as Penix got in there, Kyle Pitts started seeing an uptick in usage, and we're going to see a full year of it. I'm going to be the last analyst in the world to die on this hill, so if I'm wrong, I'm going to own it now, but this is the year finally to own Kyle Pitts. And in about 6 weeks' time, you can all rein in on me about if I'm super, super wrong.
This year, there's no draft capital. Like, as in, if you want to take your shot on Pitts this year, I've got absolutely no issue.
100% why?
I'm not talking it down because it doesn't cost you anything.
Good point. That's a definition of sleeper.
Yeah, the whole draft community has just decided that he's basically going to either go undrafted or taken at the end of draft. So they're, like JOYCEY said, I generally take tight ends late as well, and you just stream the position if it doesn't work out in week one. If Pitts is in that range, then I couldn't care less. Like, to me, he's probably got more upside than guys that are going in that position anyway. The problem that I've always had is he's always been drafted like round 5, 6. And
yeah, I can't do it.
Some other years, like, I just didn't understand the draft capital of him then. But this year with Penix and the situation, I think there's upside. And the fact is, if he's in week one, you just take someone else in week two. Like, there's absolutely no draft capital. His ADP is so low that there's no risk.
Yeah. He, in terms of just average ranking across the major sites, is at 19, while Darren Waller is at 19.5. So it tells you how little you're going to have to spend on Kyle Pitts. So Pilco Prentice, hope that one helps you. At Fantasy Analyst, Jesus, Kay. Don't know about that one.
Not an alias.
Don't know about that one. Hey, fellas, who are you targeting as an RB handcuff? Example, this is fun. Jordan Mason to CMC last year. Taylor, is there a situation where you absolutely must own the handcuff?
Yeah, I think we brought this up on the running back show, didn't we? We sort of were trying to depth the ones that actually mattered. I still think backing up CMC is definitely the best thing you could possibly do. It's not only because of his injury risk. It's what Shanahan has always done. It doesn't really matter who has been the starting running back. He's always wanted to run with one, and they've basically always been given the full workload. So, like, you obviously seen with Gorendo last year, when he was actually the starting running back, he got a lot done. He wasn't quite like what CMC is, but he had a very good season when he was the starting running back. So that's the main reason. You're looking for running back situations where it's not murky behind it. You really want, basically, if the starter goes down, you don't want to be sitting there going, oh, shit, is it this guy or this guy? Because then it makes a handcuff completely worthless. Like, you really need them to be taking that role on fully. Tyler Algier, to me, is a one I would definitely look at. Like, I won't take too many of the names because obviously we're getting asked the same question. So I'll say Gorendo is the one. I'm going to say Algiers too, because I think you saw him in his rookie season, he had 1,000 yards. This offensive line's great for Atlanta. I think if Bijan went down, Algier would just get everything. And I think that would be an amazing situation for him because he's a guy who's a super talented backup to me. So I'm not saying he would beat Bijan, but he would be a pretty high percentage of Bijan. So, I'm going to say Algier would be my second one that I would look at.
I was super bullish on Tyler Algier last week when we were talking about running backs too, because if we are going to value Bijan Robinson higher this year, his backup also has to be more valuable. But we also know Tyler Algier has a role too. So it's like both, right? He's already useful without being worried about what happens to Bijan Robinson. He was finding ways to get on the field, have meaningful touches. But because Bijan is worth more, that means his backup is worth more. And I think you made a great distinction there. The difference between a backup and a handcuff is not the same. Like, does anyone actually care who's second behind, I don't know, Travis Etienne or Tank Bigsby? Like, that's a murky situation. There's a couple of heads in there, or whatever the hell is going to happen in New York this year. In the Giants' backfield. So it's the difference between a backup and handcuff, I think, is an important distinction. From firsthand, JOYCEY, after your San Francisco situation last year, it's just funny that at Fantasy Analyst brings up your exact situation as the question. But do you have a situation this year where there is a number one running back and the person you need to handcuff to them for their volume that you are strident you would have to own?
Oh, yeah. So last year, a little bit of different example. Kenneth Walker from the Seattle Seahawks, right? So another person in my league had him. So I was very smart to draft Zach Charbonnet into my team. And there was a period where, I don't know if you both remember last year, Kenneth Walker went down, which happens mostly every season. And Zach Charbonnet was a top 5 running back. So if you have Kenneth Walker, draft Zach Charbonnet. He is an awesome talent. Big boy that can take over, run over the line and things like that. So if you're taking Kenneth Walker, you have to take Zach Charbonnet. He's a fantastic player.
That is the essence right there of what a handcuff does too, is that Charbonnet, he's fine, he comes on the field, but as soon as anything happens to Walker, there was a 40-point week in PPR last week for Zach Charbonnet. Don't know if you remember today, somebody started him in starts of the week.
I've talked about that till the cows come home about Walker. Is not like, I love the talent and I've got him ranked this year because I'm trying to project some health. But the fact is, the guy gets injured so much. So taking a handcuff for him is amazing. It's kind of like the CMC situation. You've got clear backup, and you know the guy that's in front of your handcuff gets injured a lot. So he's a few years to show that he's been a bit injury prone. So they're the guys you're obviously targeting.
Yeah, he's very talented. Very talented.
Situations don't always have one. I don't know that there's a clear handcuff behind, say, Saquon Barkley. I don't think there's one guy who assumes most of that role. I think that does get spread a bit more across the rest of the committee. So that's the distinction. And man, I hope that is helpful for you at Fantasy Analyst. The last one here comes from at West Plank 8. And he asks, with great receiving weapons and a solid run game around him, interesting, what is the ceiling for J.J. McCarthy in fantasy this year? We all touched on him a little bit on the Friday show. I'm going to throw it to you first, JOYCEY, because you were all about McCarthy's upside.
Oh, I love this question. Great one. Taylor's touched on this in the last podcast. That coach, KOC, he just making Sam Darnold a top 5 quarterback is insane, and he will definitely drop from leaving the Vikings. The receiving core JJ McCarthy he's actually a sneaky athlete. He can get some sneaky touchdowns, I think, if they're in the red zone and things like that. Honestly, he'll be someone I'm definitely looking at drafting. I'd be obviously in a 1 quarterback league, he wouldn't be going too high, but I'm very bullish on him being a top 10 quarterback this year. And I think that sneaky running with having Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, having that coach that runs and schemes up so many great plays for a quarterback, I think I'm very bullish on how he will go this year.
Top 10! Whoa! Mate, that is... Gee, I'm going to need a drink to wash that down. That is spicy.
I hope my draft mates don't listen to this, because then they'll be trying to steal him from me. I should have talked him up so much.
Hey, this feels a lot like what Tyler said to us when he came on to talk quarterbacks, is go, well, you take your quarterback who you feel like is going to be every week starter, but what if you just take a guy with the upside who could also be an every week starter? Now you've got a position of leverage against the other people in your league. The example that Tyler gave for us, Tay, you may need to explain this one to JOYCEY too, because it blows my mind, and I don't know that I can actually say it.
Yeah, well, basically, Tyler was coming of the thought process that he was going to back up even his elite quarterback. So as an example, last year he took Lamar and Jade McDaniels. Obviously, Jade, if you're looking at it now, you're like, oh, why would he get two quarterbacks that are in the top end of the draft? Well, last year, obviously, Jade wasn't. We brought him up as a value in the lead up to last year, but he wasn't being drafted like one. So, last year he basically took both of them. And then what ended up happening later in the year was he obviously had 2 amazing quarterbacks, so he was actually able to package Lamar and get a haul for him because he was so confident in Daniels. So he was actually able to use him as one of them as trade bait, and it kind of helped him in the second half of the year. So that was definitely a different sort of strategy. But my only concern in terms of ceiling, he's a redshirt rookie. He comes in. Generally, the guys in their first seasons don't throw for a shitload of yards. And my only concern for him is I don't know if he's going to have to because this defense is actually quite good. I still think his ceiling's in the top 10. I'm not disagreeing with JOYCEY at all. I think he sort of caps out at sort of the bottom of that top 10. Like I would sort of look at the 8 to 10 range as a ceiling. But he's definitely a huge target of mine in 2 quarterback leagues. Like if I'm playing super flex or a 2 quarterback league, he's a guy that I'm looking at because he's getting ranked around that like quarterback 20 range. And if I'm taking a second quarterback, he's like the perfect guy who I think has an upside in that top 10. But yeah, like I said, because KOC, run such a fantasy-friendly offense for the quarterback position. You saw Kirk Cousins, a couple of years ago. What was he, like in the top 5 the entire season when you had the cock running things? So, yeah, I just think
he was number 1 before he broke his Achilles. He was number 1.
Crazy.
And we haven't even really brought up the fact he's got fucking Justin Jefferson that he's passed. Like, he's got Justin Jefferson.
Sorry, who?
I don't know. I think this entire offense is set up for success. And even though there's going to be some games where I don't know if he's going to have to throw a shitload of yards, I just think in this offense he's going to have fantasy success, just from being there, just from being under center for this team.
Yeah, sometimes just what's around you helps elevate you. And I think JJ McCarthy's in a perfect situation for that. And I remember this time last year when everyone was sneezing in Darnell's face and all of a sudden he's his top 10 fantasy prospects for most of the season. And yeah, to think that a man can coach a situation where Sam Darnold can do that in fantasy is absurd. And do you think he's going to repeat that this year in Seattle? No. So I think that probably speaks to the power of the KOC playbook. Get a hold of the KOC playbook. It's pretty much the underline there. And I hope that helps you at Westplank8. That's been great too at Fantasy Analyst and Pilco Prentice. Hopefully that's helped you out. We'll get out of the mailbag and we'll come back next week for another dive at that. But it is time to get back into our conversation around wide receivers.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Oh, about time you cut to me there, Matty. Thank you very much.
And foreskinning, yet another dick joke.
I'm no gorilla, but I'm taking the one-on-one.
Zombies, because I don't want to be probed.
Why don't you tell me, Matty? Why don't you tell me?
Can I swear on this podcast?
Yes.
I reckon Manjot's Mama Towlet's up, though.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
We left off on the Friday show having talked about some of these household names. These are people who, I've got a 7-year-old mum who knows most of these people. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Mike Evans, Drake London, T. Higgins. That is a great list of wonderful wide receivers, but tonight we get even better. We're not just diving into more great names, but we think these are people who will shift the needle one way or another. And I can't think of a better place to start than with a guy who I'm pretty sure Tay has been on record saying may just lead the league in receiving touchdowns this year, a second wide receiver on his team. But what's with the positivity around Davante Adams?
That was my earliest bold call of the season. I think I made it like 3 months ago. Before anyone was even thinking about this new season for the NFL, I was like, you know what? Davante Adams is leading the touchdowns this year. That is just my I had a tingling feeling in my nutsack, and that was basically...
Yes, you did.
Davante Adams was going to lead the league in touchdowns. It's what I brought up with Nacua earlier. I just think this offense is going to be amazing. They're going to be in the red zone a lot. I think what's an interesting part of this is because he's the number 2 on his team, most people aren't going to be thinking that. They're going to think, Nakua's going to have the touchdowns because he's the one. But Nakua's never been that guy. He hasn't been the separator in the end zone. He hasn't been the guy that's been the target in the red zone for Stafford, where he's just sort of been targeted everywhere else on the field. I think Davante Adams is going to be that target. I think he's going to be the guy that gets free. He's a very crisp route runner, and I think he's going to be Stafford's best friend in that red zone between him and Kyron. I think they're both going to eat the red zone. So I just love it. I just think that the situation for this Rams offense is great. And you haven't really seen Adams have a quarterback situation like this since, prime Aaron Rodgers. So the fact that he gets to walk in with Stafford, yes, Stafford is obviously near the end, but he's still an amazing passer. And I think most people would still say Stafford is in that sort of top sort of tier at quarterback even at this age, especially as a passer. So, yeah, I just think the sky's the limit for Adams, and I think him and Nacua are going to coexist perfectly. And I've got them... I sort of moved things around. I ended up getting into 13 instead of 12, but that doesn't make me any less bullish on him. I think they could easily both be wide receiver ones this year.
You said the same thing on Friday's show, JOYCEY. There's no reason for that to mean that you got to be cooler on Davante Adams if you're in on Puka.
Mate, I would be fine if someone wanted to draft both of them. Honestly, I think they both have a place in fantasy this year. I was on the receiving end of Devonta Adams last season in one of my leagues. He was going off, and who was throwing the ball? Washed Aaron Rodgers. So you got to look at, for me, you got to look at his situation. So he was coming from the Jets, was a basket case last year. The Raiders that year, I don't know if you had watched the receiver show, he was getting annihilated. Some bad quarterback play. Yes, Stafford's older, but man, he's in the best situation right now with that Rams offense. Sean McVay is going to be dialing up plays, and Taylor made a great point. He's going to be that red zone option. Puka is the one that gets you there, and it was always someone else scoring. I remember having Puka in my keeper league, and you get him all the way down, basically get 50-yard runs, and then they'd be going somewhere else in the red zone. I'm really bullish on him. I think you could have both if you really wanted to in the same team and stack them. I'm very bullish on both Rams receivers this year.
The next guy down this list, Tay, you look a lot like this guy, actually. He's from Chicago. He wears a deuce on the front of his jersey. Some weeks he played like he was, catching a deuce as well. But we think his prospects look better this year, getting ranked everywhere outside the top 20, except for you and I, mate. We've got this guy comfortably ranked at 15. His first name is like a guy who scratches records. His last name is exactly what I want from him this season. It's DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, lube for your ass. An amazing, handsome podcaster, coined that phrase. Look, I just think with this offense situation, I'm looking elsewhere than just the Ben Johnson thing. Yes, I believe that is an uptick on what he had last year. His coaching situation was absolutely abysmal, so I can't say that it's not an upgrade. But I just think I'm looking elsewhere in terms of what I'm seeing, and I see an amazing offensive line that was completely overhauled. And yes, he wasn't able to get anything downfield because he was just getting monstered by the defensive lines within split seconds last year. And it was completely doing a number on his confidence, and it was doing a number on his connection with DJ Moore. And I love DJ Moore since he stepped on the field. He has been putting up with shithouse quarterback situations through his entire fucking career. I just believe that what they have done around Caleb to protect him, I just think that in general it's going to help this entire offense. And yes, you've got your Luther Bird and your Colston Loveland, who have both taken in the first round. You've got a Dunze, who they took in the first round last year. I just think DJ Moore's the most polished wide receiver. And you don't pay a guy that much money to sit him and put other guys in front of him. So I'm taking a shot on what I think is an offense that's going to be far better than last year, Tick. And I'm taking a shot on who I think the best receiver is and is going to be the most consistent out of all of those guys.
Well, as I was saying in our side conversation in the green room, I am very, very bullish on the Bears. And I feel like I just had ranked them as a... This is nothing about stats, but it's the Bears. God damn it.
It doesn't need stats because that's an ineffable thing that people understand. It's a cultural thing.
But like Taylor's hit on all these points, I won't go too long, but Ben Johnson, obviously, better quarterback to play this year. I think the biggest thing is the offensive line. It was so bad last year.
So bad.
Obviously, PFF Fantasy Focus has them as top 5 offensive line now, and I think they would have probably last year. So I just think they just So when I was saying I had him at 21, like hearing this, and I'm big on Rome as well. I watched him last year. I just feel like Tay's right. I feel like he could really have a big season this year. It comes up to Caleb at the end of the day and see if he has that big jump this second year. But man, he was running for his life last season. I feel like people were just a bit hard on him.
I want you to get Taylor to revisit one of his rankings right now, though, JOYCEY, because you and I, we are simpatico. We are a team. We are together. We are united on our love of Terry McLaurin. Yet Taylor, absolutely nothing but venom and seething hate for Terry McLaurin. We have him at 12 and 14 each, and I don't know a world where a guy who was comfortably a top 10 wide receiver, and it's not close. He was like number 4 last year. All of a sudden falls down to 20-ish where the major ranking sites have him. Can I get you to sing some songs about Terry McLaurin this year that might change Taylor's tune? Because he is much cooler. He's got him at 20.
Yes, and I think I know why he's a bit he's going to his name. He's going a bit crazy. He's angry at the moment. Scary Terry hasn't got his extension. But he's a wide receiver one, an exciting offense. Their defense isn't as good as well, which Taylor loves that kind of aspect as well, which I agree. I think he will sign. I think there's no way they won't do it.
Right?
I just can't say. Same with happened with Chase last year. Like they have to. I know they're a bit tight at the moment with money. Like they always seem to be like that, the Commanders. But he's a wide receiver one. I love Scary Terry, and I would be if he drops that far, I would be picking him up in a heartbeat, just for that upside. And I like to take the risks too. If people were a bit scared about the contract, I'd rather just jump in and just grab him and take the risk.
Terry McLaurin had 13 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
How many do you think he had in 2021, 2022, and 2023 combined?
Oh, about that many. Probably 4 each year.
14. Now, look, someone will say straight away, quarterback play. His quarterback play was horse shit, and all of a sudden he's got Jaden Daniels. I get it, but there is so much reason for negativity in terms of the regression of his touchdowns that it just concerns me. 20, it probably is a bit of an overreaction. Obviously, I don't love the holdout. I'm with you. I don't believe this trickles into the season. I've been bullish about that already on other podcasts. I don't think he's not going to get signed. They'll work it out. They've got too much invested in this team winning now that it's not going to go into the season. I'm just concerned that if it gets too close to the season, he's not going to have that camaraderie of the team. And I know he had it with Jaden Daniels last year, but it's just giving other guys reason. It's giving Debo. It's giving the rookies they've drafted. It's just putting a little bit of poison into the team that I just don't love. And I'm just sort of looking at it right now that he's probably not someone I'm drafting, and I'm just concerned about those touchdown numbers because let's say if it's a better quarterback situation, so you're not going to put him down for his 4 or whatever that he was getting with all these other wankers. But look, let's say it's 8 instead of 13. It's just reason to believe that he falls back, and it's just a little bit of a concern of mine. That's exactly why I've sort of put him lower to that end. But I won't say like you've convinced me into ranking him like 12 or something, but there's definitely reason to believe that I could be talked back into going to like 16 or 15 or something.
I don't have as much concern about the touchdown regression on this one because it's not just like one player has come in. The entire organization has changed there. There's a whole ownership change. There's an entire new breadth of everything in that organization. The only person who wants to keep it in the past is Donald Trump. So, to me, I don't have any problems with looking forward with Terry McLaurin saying, I see you, and I'm not concerned about the first 3 years where your organization and everything around you was a steaming pile of shit in a bag where someone just rang the doorbell and ran. Those days are actually gone, and the Commanders are a franchise you can actually look in the eye now and say, oh, you're a serious football team and you're a serious business in a way that you couldn't have said that 3 years ago.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to go on a rant, but I get it. He's old. Like he's on the older side. Like he's around 30. They don't want to give him a long-term deal. I get it. That's in the best interest of the team. But just work something out. The guy deserves it. Like, he put up with so much shit. I just feel like this is ridiculous. Like, again, I don't know what Terry's asking for, and I can't speak to that. But how they haven't worked this out yet just seems a bit ridiculous.
One thing I like is, as controversial as that is, that the next guy on our list is uncontroversial in every single way. The major sites have him ranked around 17, and we've got him ranked between about 15 and 17 as well as Jackson Smith-Njigba. He is an uncontroversial player pretty much, right?
Yeah. I'm very, very bullish on him. I keep saying that we're bullish, but he's someone that I am very excited about. Last year, I feel like even with the crowded wide receiver room they had, his separation is just unbelievable. He was catching some passes that were insane. I think with DK leaving, that's going to open up a lot. There is the one worry. Obviously, he'll be getting the number one corners and things like that, but I think his talent will outweigh, and he's just be getting peppered with targets. I'm very excited about that. The only thing is, will it be the same Sam Darnold at the Vikings? I don't know.
You are only replacing Geno Smith.
Yeah, good point. So that's good. Yeah, so
he didn't have Mahomes chucking it to him, brother.
Yeah, so he was putting up really decent numbers last season with obviously DK and Lockett. So yeah, I'm very, very happy to be taking him at 15.
Yeah, those other two guys are in different places, and it's not like that DK had a clean bill of health and was there every single game and producing like a number one every single game either. I think the shift to Njigba being the number one receiver happened far earlier in the season than people thought, and when you look back at their receiving numbers, that happened far earlier in the season. Probably from about week 6 onwards, it looks like that the target shift was just on, and DK was sort of starting to look like he had an increasingly protruding bottom lip and being a bit pouty. The next part of this tree gets so fun. I don't know that there's a more polarizing guy in fantasy football than Tyreek Hill, because any year you would just think he's a guy who is a powder keg, who could go for as many points as you could imagine in a single game, and he could do it any game. Last year poked such a hole in that now it's tough to know how high you inflate that balloon. I think, JOYCEY, you're a good place to start on this one, because we've talked about how he can be a favorite NFL player, but man, this is about numbers. How do you separate those two?
It's a good point. I'm actually looking at the rankings and I'm like, why do I have him at 16? I might be changing that. I think last year was just a weird year for the Dolphins last season. I feel like they might be going under the radar a little bit. So someone I might have to actually change, because at the end of the day, his speed is just unbelievable. McDaniel still makes great plays for him, moving the ball around and moving him around. So that's someone I might be changing, and I might be looking at it as drafting. Even though I do love him as a player, I still believe in his talent. I think last year just might be an anomaly.
Say, you drinking the Kool-Aid?
I think he's the wide receiver I've changed the most. I think when we first opened up, I had him in like early 20s. I think I had him like 21 or something. And I think the Jonnu trade definitely changed things for me. I talked about the intent of the team, and I think that was Tyreek's biggest issue. Obviously, he had the injury. That wasn't really helping him either. But I think the intent of the team was to protect Tua, and they were too worried. And then by the time, halfway through the year, they probably realised they couldn't make the playoffs anyway. So their entire idea was to protect Tua and figure their future. So that didn't really coincide with Tyreek Hill of what he's best at, which is going deep and having fucking 150, 200-yard games. I think the fact that they've got rid of Jonnu, I think there's an intent there for them to actually start chucking the ball again. Like I said, they can't protect Tua forever, and they really, really need to actually do something. Mike McDaniel is on the hot seat. He 100% has to pull a rabbit out of his tiny little ass, because all of a sudden they're going to actually look at him as possibly a coach that might get fired if he doesn't all of a sudden go back to what he was showcasing early in his career, in his coaching career. So I think there's going to be more of what you saw earlier on in Miami. I'm not on the side of that I think he's washed and that he's actually lost too much. I just think his offense took a complete step back in what they were doing. So I'm taking a shot that this offense changes back to what it was 2 years ago. And honestly, Tyreek at 14 might even still be a value.
I mean, it might be. I'm still pretty low, and I'm still got him at 19, because what I want to do is I want to see the progression through training camp leading into preseason games. I want to see that before I start shifting him. So I'm still kind of the super coolest out of us on him. And it's only because I don't know. It's like that biblical thing of like, doubting Thomas needed to see that, he needed to see before he could believe, right? And I'm kind of like that on Tyreek Hill. I'm less like that on Garrett Wilson. I'm a little warmer on him. I've got him up at 16, and we're all kind of in that range, 16, 17, 18. Kind of seems uncontroversial.
Yeah, it's a funny one to rank, because I wouldn't be surprised if wherever we rank him, we're just completely wrong. There is a chance that we've seen Fields facilitate a very good year for DJ Moore. So it's not like you just look at that and go, Fields just can't throw the ball, because I think he's actually got a lot of underlying metrics that actually sort of debunk that. So I don't know. Again, like JOYCEY also brought up, though, the Jets just have a stink on them. It's just like one of these things. Like you looked at like Breece Hall last year, and Rodgers coming in, and you were like, oh, there's all these reasons for optimism. But in the end, it's the fucking Jets. Like, it's hard to actually like get away from that. And I just think in this situation, it's like Garrett Wilson to me just has a very good floor, because he's got no one around him. Like my just concern is like if this Jets offense just doesn't sort of flow, like there is an opportunity there that Garrett Wilson just gets peppered with targets, but somehow those targets just don't accumulate into great fantasy, numbers. So I've just got him at 18. It's just kind of almost fence sitting in a way. It's like I just don't see the upside to put him like towards that top 10. but I think he's got enough of a baseline with Justin Fields and the fact that he's the main pass catcher that I can't really put him any lower than that either.
Yeah, the major sites have him ranked everywhere from 13 to 19, and we ain't really no different. I didn't want to use up a lot of your breath on that one, Joycey, because I need to hear you talk about the next guy on our list, which is when you wash it all out, it's one of these interesting ones where we're all a little hotter than the major sites on Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, part of this was that Kyler Murray simply refused to throw multiple touchdowns in the same game last year. And I don't know. Are you like me? I just don't believe that can be the case 2 years in a row.
Oh, I'm very, very high on Marvin. People forget, like, he was a beast in Ohio State. His numbers and what he was doing, he's come into the Cardinals, and Kyler's just wasn't really looking his way a lot of the time. But I feel like this year they're going to really dial up some plays for him. He's a number one receiver. He's gotten a lot bigger, they were saying, in the offseason as well. I'm still going to... I could take him top 15, honestly. That's how high I am. But I have him at 19 just because I don't believe in the Cardinals quarterback as much as other people might. But I can't deny the talent. It's just unbelievable. I just think he's going to break out this season.
I mean, is that as simple as that you reckon, say, there's a bit of a misalignment between the talent of the player and what is around him?
Yeah, I just think there's reasons to like sort of throw out his rookie season. I just think he came in a bit slim. He just sort of wasn't able to take any contested catches. Kyler had his issues. It was pretty much all Trey McBride, or it was Harrison sort of having these like really random games where he would look like the best receiver in the league, and then all of a sudden like you wouldn't see him for the rest of the game. I just think him going into year two, there's just reason to believe that he's going to have a better rapport with Kyler. I think he's just going to be used to the NFL a bit more. So I just think with his talent that he came into the NFL, I just don't think that goes away. I have reason to believe the Cardinals will be a pretty decent offense this year. And I think the fact that people have seen how good Trey McBride is, I think that's going to take pressure off Harrison a little bit. And then you're not going to see Harrison getting all these like amazing like defenders on him. There's going to be like more game plans to stop McBride than there was last year. And I just think that's going to give Harrison the opportunity to actually get himself a bit more acquainted in the NFL. So I just think there's reason for positive regression with Marv for sure. I'm with like Joycey. I couldn't rank him like much higher than I have him at 19 because I need to sort of see him first. But he's another one that I wouldn't be surprised if we're ranking him at 20 or whatever, and he's sitting there at wide receiver 5 or 6 halfway through the year, and we're like, holy shit, what a value.
Yeah, essentially having a Malik Neighbor season of last year. And mate, again, I think this is one of those things where we trust the player more than what's around them. But there is never, ever, as far as I can remember, been a time where we drafted a wide receiver on the edge of the top 10 in their rookie year. They were a complete disaster in terms of, they finished outside the top 30. Yet the next year we come back and we put them back in about the 15 to 20 range because we just trust the player. I have never seen this before. I don't know. I've been playing fantasy 15, 16, 17. I don't even remember how many years. There was only 5 TV channels back when I started watching NFL, and you had to watch highlights on SBS. That's how bad it was in this country. I can't remember a time where we've done this for a player because we trust the player. And I mean, maybe, I don't know how much longer, whether the Kyler situation is something that persists because they're just married to him for forever, or if they're in a situation where they go, you know what, actually Kyler's not the key to unlocking what we want from this offense. But we all understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. is a terrific wide receiver, and I think his circumstance makes it hard for him. And it feels almost backwards from where we are next with Ladd McConkey, because every website, I challenge you, gentlemen, go and find a website where Ladd McConkey's not ranked 11. He's ranked at 11 everywhere. And I don't understand for the life of me what's going on here, because he's this tiny, undersized white wide receiver on offense with a quarterback who doesn't actually pass terrifically well. He used to throw 1,000,000 times a game. Now he doesn't have to do that. It turns out, actually, not a game-changing quarterback. He was great for fantasy for 15 minutes. And now you take away all his great talent. He's got this tiny little wide receiver who everyone seems to think has this great upside. None of us believe that. We've all got him so close to 20 or on the other side of 20. It's ridiculous. Tay, what is it that's got everyone at 11, and why do we hate him so much?
Yeah, I think he's going to be my biggest fade this year. He's definitely the one in that sort of top 20 that I have the biggest difference on in terms of where I've got ranked in terms of and what the ADP is right now. I think everyone's looking at the way he finished last year, not really looking at the underlying reasons as to why it happened. It was 3 games, and this is the reason why. This is why I think it happened. Honestly, yes, he is talented. Yes, I'm not sitting here saying he's not a good wide receiver. He clearly showed he is. He had a playoff game where he had 170 yards or something. Like he's a very good wide receiver. You touched on a lot of the reasons as why I'm a little bit worried. I just think that this team doesn't want to pass a shitload. They're a Jim Harbaugh offense that wants to run the fuck out of the ball. Greg Roman offense that just doesn't really want to do anything like completely out there. They just want to run the ball and win a fucking low-scoring game. They're not out there to try and help fantasy players. This is why I'm concerned about McConkey. Everyone's drafting him because of his finish the last year. He wasn't great in the first half of the year, and you could say, yes, it's because he was a rookie. But the reason I believe he was very hit and miss in this first half of the year is because their running game was doing well. Their running game with J.K. Dobbins was killing it the first half of the year. Then all of a sudden they couldn't run the ball. Everything turned and they had to change their offense. They had to look elsewhere and go, you know what, we're going to have to go passing a bit more. Their rate of passing just completely flipped in the second half of the year. And I don't believe that stays that way. I think they went out and decided we need to change our running back situation. We need to actually get back to what we wanted to do in the first half of the year. They went out and drafted a fucking rookie at the top of the draft in New Hampton. They go out and get Najee near the start of free agency. This team has clearly done with their actions what they want to do in the games, and that is run the fuck out of this ball. So I do not, and to be honest, they also went out and got fucking Trey Harris, who I think is actually a very good wide receiver, who I think has a chance of actually taking some volume away from McConkey if that volume ever happens. So there's just too many red flags to me. I'm not saying I hate McConkey. I've got him at 17. I'm not saying he just falls off a cliff. I just think he's getting drafted like everyone assumes the end of the season's going to happen again, and I have serious questions as to whether that's going to happen again.
Joycey, I didn't see anyone in the last 15 years nod as vigorously as you nodded about the Trey Harris call from Tay. That was affirmative right there. Give us quickly, what do you like about the situation for Trey Harris, and why do you think this is cancerous for Lad McConkey?
Look, Taylor's spot on with everything. I won't add too much. I still like him as a player. I'm drafting him as 11th best receiver. I can't. They're not going to throw the ball much. It's just risky to take him that high. I think around that 20 mark is someone who you should look at. He's an undersized receiver as well. You just got to hope he stays in the slot and things like that and gets his touches. But I don't think he's going to be the player that was that massive end of the season that he had. I think he's just going to be around that 20 mark, best receiver in the comp.
He has to be a wide receiver one for that team. And I don't know, he's a nice player, but I've got a list here of 60 nice players. They all can't be top 15. And to me, either is Lad McConkey. Mate, hopefully for those, like, I understand the major sites are where they are, and that's going to pop people up for people to draft in order of how major sites think. But this is where independent thought matters, and I think this is where a show like ours makes a huge difference.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I'm going to keep the ding counter going, so at home, drink.
I would give that a solid 8.5 out of 10.
And foreskinning, yet another dick joke.
I'm a young, handsome, strawberry blonde boy here.
I don't need a second invitation. I'm there.
Lucky you got a good personality, right?
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Yeah. Immediately below him is a player I personally love to smithereens. And what I love about this is it looks like JOYCEY's on the bandwagon with me with Cortland Sutton. This guy finished wide receiver 12 last year out of nowhere. He was in the preseason ranked at closer to 30. I've sung this song a bunch of times, but JOYCEY, give us what you think is good about this Denver offense where you can see Cortland Sutton producing like a wide receiver too.
So I always unfairly on Cortland Sutton. He's done nothing against me, but I always just thought he was budget and just someone that I never really wanted to draft. And that's silly by me. He's actually a very good receiver. I think with Sean Payton, Bo Nix, even though he's 30, running the quarterback, he makes some good plays. He's the wide receiver one there. I just think he's someone that you kind of just forget about. Kind of that Drake London, kind of ball scoring player, but he gets it done. He's just someone that the last 2 years he still gets it done. So I think Bo Nix, another year with him, I think he can be really, really good this season again. And just unfair to him, I think people just miss him because he plays.
I mean, they got Jerry Jeudy out of his way, and check that out, Taylor. Oh, how about that? You got him at 25. Shame on you.
25 still ahead of ADP, right?
It is. Yep.
My only case it's not against him, but I brought it up with Bo Nix in the quarterback show. My only concern is I don't know how many points this team's going to have to score to win. Their defense is amazing. Their offensive line is great, which I think they're going to be able to run the fuck out of the ball. That's a lot of keys to success. Sometimes it's not actually the success of fantasy, and I do have concerns that if they don't need to pass the ball in the second half, it's going to hurt Sutton occasionally. So there is concerns about consistency, but he's the wide receiver one on a very good team. So I can't hate on him either.
Tate, you've got a really great pick that I think belies some of the realities that we think about rookie wide receivers. And, mate, I feel like you've got a lot of bold stuff to say about Tech McMillan.
Yeah, I've kind of made this stance early in the preseason that I think he's a far better talent than a lot of people will give him credit for. Ted is going to be an amazing asset to Bryce Young. I've said this a million times. He is very good at contested catches. Bryce Young isn't going to have to throw the absolute perfect ball to get him open. I just really, really like Ted as an all-round player. The best part about this is that defense is still fucking dog shit. It is so bad. It's ranked last again this year. They are going to need to pass the ball a lot. Their offense is going to need to be there in games to win. And Dave Canellis has already shown in the past what he has done with a Tampa Bay offense. And I'm not saying that he's got all the pieces there that he did at Tampa, but he can run an offense that helps. He gets second year. Bryce Young showed what he could do at the end of last year. I just think there's a reason for optimism for this offense. And Ted McMillan, to me, is the absolute bona fide one in this team straight away. And I just think he's being underdrafted, honestly. I've got him at 22. I'm very bullish.
We're all a bit hot and bothered for him. He's ranked closer to 30 by the time you get all the consensus of the major sites together. Every single one of us is 25 or above. So we're all drinking that Kool-Aid, and I think we can all see a little bit of upside for Ted McMillan. It's at this point here where we get to about the 25th wide receiver too, where now it becomes open slather. And I'm going to go straight to you, JOYCEY, on this one, because once you get from about 25, you start talking about guys who they may not even be your wide receiver two now. They may be flex. And then guys beneath this are people who you are considering as bye-week fill-ins and flex starters. This is where you can really change a matchup, and a matchup can change your result by the end of a season. There are a couple of guys who I can see further down this list who've got a number next to them higher than 25, where you've got a particular little flavor for why you like them better than consensus. Do you want to pick one off that list right now and give us a guy you just love the taste of at this point, where we're outside the top 25?
So the number one, I hope he has a big season. Chris Olave. Yeah. I really think people forget how good he was a couple of years ago. I know he had the concussion issues. I think he comes back this year and he has a big season. He's a fantastic player. He's very great route runner. Obviously, the quarterback situation won't be great, but there's no one really else that's going to take the targets and things like that. It's just It comes down to health, and I'm willing to take that risk. Again, I like to take a lot of risk in fantasy, and if it doesn't work out, I feel like at this stage, if you're picking him at 39, where the NFL consensus has him, I'd be taking that in a heartbeat. I have him at 27, so and you were the same.
100%.
So, yeah, I think the risk and reward is worth it for him.
You're singing the same song as me. Tay is much more on that NFL.com number. Tay, give us a quick Cliff Notes version as to why you're kind of running away with your hair on fire from Chris Olave.
I don't think I am, though. It's a weird one where I was sitting there today and I'm like, is this the guy that I need to sort of move up? And I just left him there because all the questions JOYCEY brought up. Obviously, this team's like balls. They don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. I would prefer Shuck because he's the unknown. I'm leaving myself open to changing that ranking. I'm not sitting saying I won't have any of him. That's just where I kind of landed. I just had some other guys I kind of had a little bit more upside for. But I'm an Olave dynasty owner in like a couple of leagues. Like I love the talent. I think it could be one where I just really need to see it. And obviously, he's got the concussion issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll leave it there. But I'm leaving it open to change.
He can be unlocked. I think that is true. He can definitely be unlocked because this time last year we were looking at him being ranked at about 15. So has he himself changed? No. Has his quarterback situation improved? I'm not sure it could have gotten worse. So potentially he is actually just one of the greater values lying out there. Mate, you've got a swath of players who you could call on right now to be some of the ones that you love outside this range of 25. Do you want to sing the song for two of them straight out of the gate? Who are your two hottest that you would urge people to start looking at outside this 25 range?
You'll like this, Taylor. Jacoby Myers, I just think in Vegas, I think is someone that you can really look at. I was actually last year facing him was so annoying. He was just a PPR machine. I think that as someone out of the 25, he could definitely be someone you look at. He's going to be the number one receiver. Geno, you have seen Geno pass a lot in the passing offense. I think they'll be a lot better with their running back situation as well. I reckon he's someone you can definitely look at. I'm also big on Calvin Ridley this season at Tennessee. I think he's someone that will go a lot better this year. Obviously, Cam Ward coming in, number one receiver in that time. I think they're going to throw the ball because they don't really have much choice because they're going to be terrible either way. So I think he's someone as well that could really jump up this season.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are well outside that 25. Tay, I think between you and I, you love one of them. I love one of them. Did you have anything you want to add on either one of them and also throw in a couple of guys who you're really licking your lips for?
Yeah, there hasn't been a single mock draft I haven't taken Jacoby Myers yet.
No, you are the number one Jacoby Myers fan club member, I think.
It fits that mold of just in the draft, like when you need a lot of my, I don't know what sort of happened with a lot of my mock drafts, but often I've gone like hero wide receiver where I've taken a high one and then I've kind of gone running backs and then maybe a onesie or whatever, and then I've kind of needed value wide receiver twos, and it's like him and Khalil Shakir kind of just fit that mold as guys who I know are one teams. And I just think they're getting underdrafted. Like their ADPs are like wide receiver between 35 and 40. And I've just kind of, I've ranked them like, at the bottom of the 20s. But I just think they're my favorite targets around that range because I just think they're getting underdrafted and underrepped. So Jacoby Myers is actually probably getting high. I've talked about both of those guys, but I think Myers is actually going ahead of Shakir because I still think there's actually an unknown upside to Myers. I know he's had this career where he just has no touchdowns, but that's why I believe there's upside to it because what if all of a sudden the touchdown positive regression comes and all of a sudden you're not only getting this volume hunter, you're actually getting a guy with 6, 7, 8 touchdowns as well. I don't know. I actually think he's got a higher upside than a lot of people think, so I love that one.
Yeah, and I knew that you were going to go to him because of how high you are on him versus consensus. I think his average in the major consensus sites is 29. I've got him outside of that as well. So I knew you were going to run to him like a bed of honey, and I just thought if there is anybody in the world who loves Jacoby Myers more than you, I'd like to meet him. Sounds like JOYCEY's pretty close, but I still don't think his erection for Jacoby Myers matches yours, mate. And I think when you talk about this range of players too, you can throw in that you've got a love for George Pickens that's a bit more strong than most. And then you can also look at guys like you mentioned, Khalil Shakir. And I also think you're kind of one of the big believers that Stephon Diggs will end up with some volume. So there's just a couple of the guys who I know that you've got a bit higher than what the rest of the world is thinking. And, mate, I don't dislike any of them. The one I think that I've got that stands out the most in that range is exactly, Dan went to it like a bed of honey. JOYCEY, I love this. You went to Chris Olave because I've got him a good 5 places higher than the major sites consensus. And then after that, I've got guys I hate a lot more, but not a lot of guys I love a lot more until you get right down to the depths. And the one guy who I've got who's kind of like let me pull one out of my pocket and just maybe shock you a little bit is after Rashee Rice has had all of his stuff happen, he's going to jail for 30 days. I don't know what his NFL season will look like. I've completely pulled out of the rankings. We don't have him on there. Is that I've seen Xavier Worthy gets a bump. I feel like Hollywood Brown is the other player who gets a bump in that offense. And so I've ranked him a little bit higher, probably 6 or 7 spots higher than major consensus. So it's just based on where else does the ball go? And it's not like they've all of a sudden got some like dominant pass catching running back who fills that void. that Travis Kelce hasn't been Travis Kelce for a while, and we know he will still get some targets, but it can't all go to Xavier Worthy. It looks like Hollywood Brown's the next guy. And given he was so unhealthy last year and he's had a lot of time to recover, I kind of feel like there's no reason to doubt him. All of the ranking sites are pretty much saying, who the fuck is Hollywood Brown? So that's kind of the one way down in the 40s I'm throwing my hat on. Has anyone got a super, super deep one that they want to throw in here before we start talking about the guys we're running away from like our hair's on fire?
Yeah, I can throw in a couple. Jalen McMillan, I touched on him at Tampa Bay. I feel like he is very talented and he could someone that jump in. I feel like Godwin is coming towards the end, particularly with his injuries. And Baker and I feel like him had a really good combination. They were looking at him in the red zone as well, which I thought was interesting. With obviously Mike Evans. I want to give a special shout out. I don't know what it is. Keon Coleman. I love him at Buffalo. This is more of a heart pick. But he's just a cool dude, so why not? End of the draft. He's got some talent, big boy. He can catch some things, so you never know. He's someone you always got to throw out there. And he's playing with Josh Allen. Like, let's be real. It's a pretty good quarterback, so why not take a risk on him? Not only because I do really think he's talented, and he's a top pick from last year, and he's only going to get better. I feel like he's someone you could look at too.
So weird that the number 2 scoring fantasy player in the entire world is a quarterback, and we look at his wide receivers and go,
yeah, it's weird.
Isn't it weird? So I think Manjot would kiss you on the mouth to know that you are about Keon Coleman, because he's also all of a sudden in the last couple of days gotten hot on Keon Coleman as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Tay, I know one player in particular who you've mentioned earlier when we were talking about the number 1 wide receiver in that offense who you would love a slice of, and I feel like his name rhymes with Darnell Schmooney.
Yes. Oh, mate, I'll always be on that Darnell Schmooney.
I love this.
Like, it's...
I can't rhyme like Taylor. Let's put it out there. I can't rhyme like Taylor.
He's just good everywhere he goes. Like, he was one of these guys I saw when he was young at the Bears. He had Andy Dalton just overthrowing him and underthrowing him. And I was another one of these eye test guys that I just watched him early in his career and went, this guy's just getting open at will. He just has no one that can throw him the ball. And it's taken him going, changing his scenery and going to Atlanta. And you saw how many games, what an effective fantasy player he was last year, and multiple 100+ yard games. He's a wide receiver too in a wide receiver 1 body. Like he actually is good enough to be a wide receiver 1 on teams, but he seems to go well having someone in front of him like a Drake London that sort of takes the pressure off it. I just think with Penix there's reason to believe there's upside with this offense. And, yeah, I kind of like both of them. I'm not going to let my Mooney love actually hate on London this year. And I just think there's room for both of them. I think those two are so far clear of any other wide receiver on the team. I just think there's a chance that this offense is very good, and there's a chance that both of these guys are going to be amazing. Can I throw out...
That's great.
...that you'll ever fucking hear? Like, it is... Like... There's no way. This guy wouldn't get drafted if you drafted twice.
Oh, fuck. Is it going to be Romeo Dubs, Marvin Mims, Xavier Legette, Jack Beck? What are you doing here?
Hey, is that Legette's a man?
Jack Beck's a funny one because I have a take on a bold takes gridiron episode, and it's about the same team. I believe that Jack Beck is not even the best rookie on his team, and especially in year 1. I think Dante Thornton from the Raiders, I reckon there's a lot of people listening don't even know who the fuck that is. He just got taken in the 4th round by the Raiders. I think he is way better. He is going to...
The next Sun God.
He's going to be the wide receiver, I believe, especially in the second half of the year that's right behind Jacoby Myers. I think he is way more talented. He's one of these guys, Matty, that I've brought up with you that I look for when I'm looking at like later rookie picks in draft dynasty. I look for guys that fell in the draft because they weren't the quickest. They weren't, like, they didn't have these ridiculous measurables, whereas this guy is actually quick. He is big. He has an awesome route tree. He's a great catch percentage in college. I just think he's getting underrated. And he's my favourite pick in rookie drafts late. I want my name associated with this guy. Very, very deep. I'm in a coma sleep.
That is so deep. Love it. And I think that's a great spot too because he is not exactly high on the rankings list. I think his average 8 ranking is about 53. So it's great to have a shot that deep. That's deeper than I went. I only went to Hollywood Brown, who's nowhere near that deep.
I do love that though.
we are going to wrap wide receiver with that. Fellas, look, firstly, I just want to thank JOYCEY so much because you've come and joined us. You've made yourself a part of the furniture immediately. It's been terrific to have you through. And, man, I'd love to see you back through the podcast again soon. You reckon you'd make a date for us to come back through the regular season if we asked you?
Of course, 100%. This is honestly the most fun I've had in a long time. I talk NFL fantasy with everybody, just have phone calls for like hours with my mates. So this is basically how it felt. So I would love to. This was awesome, and thanks for having me, both of you.
Yeah, for a guy who's on the first way through, you've looked exceedingly comfortable. Would you agree, Tay?
Well, you and I spoke about it between episodes. Oh, no, did I just give away the secret? It's not on the different days? Sorry.
I changed shirts to make it look like it's a different day, Taylor.
Yeah, it's out of the episode. Look, JOYCEY's been as comfortable as I've seen any guests on this. It's been amazing. He clearly has a knack for this and really, really loves what he's talking about, loves NFL fantasy like we do. So he's been the perfect guest to have on to do this. So thanks so much for coming on, mate. Yeah. Thanks for supporting the podcast, and we'll definitely get you on more. You haven't had a chance to do starts of the week, and that's a good thing. We've done all this stuff in the preseason. We haven't even got to sink our teeth into like some of the awesome, ideas and different things that we do in the regular season. So can't wait to have you and everyone that's come on in the preseason on during the regular season, because then we can really start putting all this chat that we're talking about in the preseason to good use in the regular season. So thanks a lot, mate.
No problem. I really enjoyed it. It was very easy. You guys were very welcoming, so thank you so much for having me.
Now, I expect that we're going to see you through the rest of the season too in a bunch of the leagues that we run through the AGN. But for those who are listeners to the podcast, we need your help because Taylor is currently going to be part of a league where we're trying to line up 9 listeners against him, and the highest finishing listener, maybe the winner of the league, but also maybe just the highest finishing listener, will walk away with an AGM prize pack. Tay, they've got their work cut out for them, right? They've just got to go across to Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. It's the first link. They sign up. We get 9 listeners against you. But that's where the game starts, right? Because then they're going to try and take you down. Yeah,
look, join the 9-team league. It'll be great. Like, there's one team that's unassailable, but try and win the 9-team league. It'll be absolutely fantastic. So good luck to anyone.
For however fast that one fills up to, the next prize then is that the 9-team league after that will be trying to beat me, which I'm not sure is nearly as difficult. But I don't know. I won starts of the week last year, and I feel very, very happy having my bronze shack dick here. So that is the moment in the sun for me. But look, this is going to be a fantastic thing that the winner of each of these leagues, in terms of the highest finishing listener in either of them, is going to walk away with a great AGM prize pack in each of these leagues. It's going to be a t-shirt, a hat, a sticker from our great merchandise store. And every time we bring a guest on, they say something outlandish and we turn it into a freaking shirt and it goes in the merch store. And you're no different, JOYCEY. There's going to be some stuff up in the merch store from the things that you said to us in the last 2 shows. So careful.
Love it.
We probably need you to sign something before you came on the podcast about that, actually. So, shame on me. Mate, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much, everybody, for your wonderful support. We've actually moved ourselves up to 93 on the Million Podcast NFL Fantasy Ranks, which is amazing. We started at 95. We got to 94. We're at 93 now. And we're so thankful for your support, because this doesn't happen without people backing us, listening to us, and supporting us the whole way through. Tate, can you believe it?
If these trends continue, we'll be 92 in no time. No, like I said, I've waxed lyrical about everyone that's been listening and everyone that's showing support and coming onto the podcast, like JOYCEY tonight, others before him, and others that will come on after him. So that little community we have in the messenger group, it's just awesome to hear people having so much love for NFL fantasy, being Australian, and it's cool having that community together, because obviously it's an American sport, but it's cool to have guys in the same country, in the same area, sort of sharing a passion together. So, mate, we've put a lot of time and effort into this podcast, and it seems to be going from strength to strength, and just getting to chat to different people every week. It's been phenomenal. So thank you so much to everyone.
Oh, my God. And Tate, you and I have actually worked together on over 400 episodes together. So it's, oh, my God, you poor tortured bastard. But next week, we're going to have both Ian Tomlinson from G'day Gridiron and the Croc Hunter Kev Patterson come through to talk tight end, and then do a mock draft with us on the Sunday show. So it's just going to be fucking wild. You've joined us at the best time of year. And then after that, through August, we get into the divisional shows that we do in line with our brothers at G'day Gridiron. They do the NFL analysis. We do the fantasy analysis of every division on every compass point before leading in to the first week of the NFL and fantasy season. So it is a great time to be alive and a great time for you all to be joining us. We'll catch you all next week. And in the meantime, hooroo, fellas.
Say Flowers is the shit version of Brock Bowers. Thank you.
It's not true, but it rhymes.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Thanks to the Aussie Gridiron Network, Australia's home for NFL and Australian gridiron content. Discover everything the network has to offer, including G'day Gridiron, Pastry Press, NFL, and Aussie Gridiron Today. Buy merch and win free stuff. Visit the mothership at linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. Hooroo!